Department of Justice is also consulting with local authorities about ways that they can maintain public safety without restricting the right of peaceful protest and while avoiding unnecessary escalation. I made clear to the Attorney General that we should do what is necessary to help determine exactly what happened and to see that justice is done. I also just spoke with Governor Jay Nixon of Missouri. I expressed my concern over the violent turn that events have taken on the ground and underscored that now's the time for all of us to reflect on what's happened and to find a way to come together going forward.
All right, folks, welcome to the Malzberg panel. That was the president earlier today. We're joined by criminal defense attorney, and that's Remi Spencer, and co-host of Steele Ungar on SiriusXM, Rick Ungar. And let me start with you, Remi. The president will talk about what he said about Iraq, but he also obviously addressing the situation in Ferguson, Missouri. He went a lot less far than he went with Trayvon could have been my son, would have looked like me, or a son would have looked like him. And the police acted stupidly when it came to Cambridge. But he did say he was troubled by what went on.
You make a very good point. I think the president has learned from his missteps in the past. We all agree, I think, that the president went way too far when we were dealing with the Trayvon Martin case. And he's learned his lesson. We don't need to be criminal defense lawyers or prosecutors or civil rights activists to know that in Ferguson, Missouri, the system has failed. This country has the greatest criminal justice system in the world. And when it works, fairness and equity and justice is done. We don't have that in this case, at least not yet. We don't know enough about what's happening in Missouri to really know whether justice is going to survive. We know that a police officer shot and killed an unarmed African-American, and that's about it.
Right.
And
yeah, no, you're right. That's all we know. And Rick, the president, his remarks, you could weigh in on that, and then explain to me why the entire left is, saying that there's a war against black men again.
Well, first of all, I don't think the entire left is saying that. I haven't said that. I thought the president was kind of on the money with his remarks. He pointed out both sides. No excuse for rioting, and there isn't. And the police have to be a bit more careful in terms of what they're doing.
Well, you're talking about quelling the riots and
Look,
fighting crowds that won't disperse and that throw bricks and Molotov cocktails.
No, what I'm mostly concerned about is what happened with journalists yesterday. You had one group of journalists who had gas fired at them, and then you see the police taking apart their cameras and equipment. You have two Huffington Post reporters who were arrested and then let go because they hadn't done a darn thing wrong. These are important. The transparency matters. I think we all agree on that.
Remi?
I agree 100%, and I believe with those two Huffington Post reporters was a city councilman from Ferguson, Missouri.
Yes.
So I think that sort of highlights one of the biggest problems right now about the failure of our system in that area. Because we know that if the lay person, the average person, is embroiled or embedded in some sort of shooting, and we don't have all the facts, what do the police do? They arrest you. Yeah, it's a low standard of evidence. Probable cause is all they need to do to arrest you. And that's not happening in this case. We don't even know who the shooter was. And I understand the need that the Sheriff's Department has to balance the safety of this individual and his family with the protection of the community. But at some point, if the facts reveal that this cop did something wrong, he should be, just like any of us would be, arrested and charged accordingly.
Right, but you do agree that that hasn't happened yet, and so there's no need. Obviously, he's not been arrested, and so there's no need to release his name. I mean, what possible advantage, how would it help in the investigation or help bring this case to justice if at this point they release his name?
Well, I'm not sure that the public would necessarily be able to assist in any law enforcement investigation. But what the Sheriff's Department and the DA have come out and said yesterday and today is that they're going to complete their investigation and they're going to take it to a grand jury if necessary. And I can tell you from my practice that that's not how it's normally done. Yes, the grand jury can investigate and make the charging decision, but typically when someone's involved in a shooting and the police believe it's of a nature that the grand jury should be making a decision about probable cause, that suspect has already been arrested and is either sitting in a jail or has posted bail awaiting his court date.
But that's not how it goes for cops,
right.
Rick.
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, Remi's got this exactly right, not surprisingly, because she's a practicing attorney. Look, I understand completely why the police force is reluctant to release his name. It's a safety issue for his family, and I get that 100%. And quite frankly, if you told me at this very moment who the officer was, it really wouldn't have an impact on my thinking. What is at issue here is a trust issue. There is a trust issue with the community there who are concerned that the right investigation may not be done. And I'm not suggesting it won't be. I do feel better, I have to tell you, that the Justice Department is assigning some people to it to conduct their own investigation, because at least there's a backstop there if you are worried that the police department might be looking out for their own and may not do the investigation that is necessary. Now you have a backstop. So I think that's a good thing. But you have to understand why they're concerned. By the way, and I quickly would add, though, I do understand why the police department is not releasing his name.
Yeah, and you know what troubles me though is again, not all people on the left, you know, the Al Sharptons, the Jesse Jacksons, the media. Keep bringing up Trayvon Martin in this, Remi. Trayvon Martin, it was proven as to why he was shot. He played a part in his own death. He was beating a man, his head into the concrete and breaking his nose. I mean, to still point to that as some kind of injustice and proof that people are hunting black young men is just ridiculous.
I don't think that we can draw any more of a similarity between this case against Mr. Zimmerman and this incident, except to say that it's dealing with biracial crime. You know, I will just say one thing about your description, though. The outcome of that case was not that it was proven that Zimmerman, or Trayvon Martin, I should say, was involved in his own death. What we know is that the state couldn't prove that Zimmerman intentionally or recklessly caused that death. So there are a lot of people in the community who don't believe justice was done.
All right, guys, we'll continue. We'll pick this up quickly in the second part. We'll be back with more from the panel after the break. But first, it's time to stay tuned now for your Newsmax Now update right here on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax Television.